Overwatch is one of my favourite games of all time, but recently it just hasn't felt the same. The release of the Transformers collab shows that we're getting plenty of content, way more than in Overwatch 1, yet I, alongside many others, are beginning to tire of this game. To be fair, there have been multiple moments such as this throughout the game's history, but why is now such a prevalent one? What is it about these last few seasons of Overwatch that have made it feel so boring? Well, in this video, I'll be attempting to evaluate exactly why the game is beginning to feel so stale. And I'll give you a hint, it at least partially involves that very content which we've been getting so much of. But before we talk about that, let's begin by looking into arguably the game's biggest issue, its age. Overwatch was released in May of 2016, meaning that the game is now over 8 years old. That's a long time. Most games don't even live that long in the first place, especially not without some drastic changes or sequels. And fine, Overwatch is very different from its original state. There are a multitude of new heroes, hero lock, role lock, and 5v5, just to name a few. But how much has it really changed in the last few years? An artificial 2 has been slapped on, the monetization system has changed, a measly few mostly hated heroes have joined, and the least popular mode has been replaced with the 2 new least popular ones. Not all that much has actually been altered. And as someone who has played since 2018, it makes sense that I would eventually grow tired of a game with such a deficit of new things. It's only natural for it to become boring at some point. You see, when a game is new and fresh, and just the core gameplay alone feels great, it's easy to overlook the game's other issues. It's easy to be content playing despite a lack of content because the gameplay alone is so enjoyable. Now, this is fine in the long term if the game finds a way to keep itself feeling good. If it's able to keep itself new and fresh and get the player's excitement, or if it can provide additional value past simply the base gameplay. Yet, Overwatch simply hasn't in my opinion. And I know I said this game does get a good amount of content, however that doesn't necessarily mean it gets enough quality content, and I'll get onto that more later. But when you've been playing the game for so long and that feeling of excitement slowly wears off, you begin to look around and recognize that there isn't much else. You also realize how many other good games there are. With how popular gaming has now become, there exists a plethora of competitors to Overwatch. Maybe not ones which are exactly the same, but games which can attract your attention nonetheless. This makes it significantly more difficult for Overwatch to stand out. And since you only have so much time to play games, it's easy for Overwatch to get overlooked. Recently, I've been playing Apex Legends, Titanfall 2, League of Legends, Valorant, the Finals, and more. Each of these games requires a lot of your time, at least if you want to get good, and so the time left over for Overwatch is slim. Furthermore, with the shift to 5v5, Overwatch lost some of its more MOBA elements, which helped to make it so unique. I'm not going into the debate of whether or not it's better, at least not in this video, but it has absolutely made it feel more similar to other multiplayer shooters. This makes it easy to instead want to play new and more exciting games, especially now that more direct competitors like Marvel Rivals are beginning to be produced. But why now? You could say that these factors have been affecting the game for multiple years at this point, so why is it becoming so boring now? Well, I have a few reasons, and I promise you that there will be even more which I miss in this video. One of them though is undoubtedly the tank problem. Ever since Season 9, tank has felt really rough. I mean, some would argue that tank has always felt rough, at least in Overwatch 2, but recently it has been extra bad. It not only feels like you die way too quickly, but simultaneously it can be really difficult to get kills, especially when facing certain heroes. Plus, counter swapping is as bad as ever, even more so when I'm playing Winston. Poor Winston. For tank players, this has obviously not been great, but for non-tank players it's also been bad, because they're just fed up of hearing tanks complain. Luckily, Blizzard have recognized this issue and have begun trying to fix it. As of writing this script, I've not had time to test the changes much, but we'll see how things go. Arguably, the biggest issue with Overwatch recently though is the content. Now, as I said, the amount of content isn't actually bad. If you showed what we have now to an Overwatch 1 player in 2021, they'd be begging for it. However, recently it feels like every event is just underwhelming. That's mainly due to most of the content being skins you have to buy with real money. Keep in mind that this is from the perspective of a free-to-play player, but also keep in mind that most people are free-to-play, or close to it at least. Let's take the recent Transformers collab as an example. What did we get? 4 skins in the shop, and some boring challenges which just give player icons and whatnot. That's it. Now, having these types of things is fine, but at least give a player something more to do than grind for a name card. Also, Transformers feels like the kind of thing you could have done so much with, like it can be really cool, so when I realized that they hadn't done anything much, it was a little disappointing to say the least. Luckily, this was also released alongside the Summer Games event, which just brought back the same old modes we've had for years. If we then look back at the start of the season, however, there was some good stuff, but it just wasn't enough to hold players' attention. The creative mode was a good idea, but underwhelming, the new map was cool, but you rarely ever see it, and the battle pass was fine, but at the end of the day, it's just a battle pass. Now, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, I'm not complaining, except for maybe the Transformers thing, but I digress. Anyways, I'm just trying to evaluate why people are getting bored, and realistically, one of the only things which prevents this is a new hero. However, we didn't get any this season, and the release of Venture was underwhelming. Not that Venture is a bad hero, but her release just didn't feel impactful enough. Then the season before that was boring, then before that we got Mauga, aka the least played hero in the game, then before that we got no hero. You see where I'm going. The thing is that there isn't much special about why the game is feeling stale now specifically. In reality, it's been this way for a while. So why is it culminating now? Well, because of just that. The game has been boring for a while now with a few small bright spots, but most people have been able to overlook this boredom. However, the longer that things go on, the longer of an extended period that the game is in this state, the more fed up people become. Eventually, it just combines into everyone being frustrated all at once. The devs at Blizzard are trying their best, and hopefully readjusting the tanks and thereby improving the core gameplay will help, but I don't see this feeling going away anytime soon. Don't worry, this doesn't mean I'll be going anywhere, although I will be trying a new style of video which has me looking more into the history of the game, so subscribe to see that in a few weeks. Anyway, let's not end this on a sad note, so go and check out one of these videos for a lot more fun. I'll see you there.